excited to welcome to the show Gina, our first breast cancer survivor of the night. Welcome. How you doing, Gina?
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem. You made it very exciting for us here. All
I
good.
know.
You have so many people here. I know you're from Ohio, correct?
Yes,
And
Cincinnati.
you have a lot of people joining us tonight from Ohio. So we have a lot of Ohioans. Is that the correct way to say that?
That is correct. A lot of Ohioans.
Excellent, excellent. I took a stab and said that earlier, and I was like, gosh, I hope that was right. I just kind of made that up. But we have people from all over the United States joining us tonight to chat with you about your journey through breast cancer. And there on the break, you were like, this is kind of your coming out party regarding your breast cancer. Can you just take us and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been fairly private on social media and the like with regard to my breast cancer diagnosis. I feel like ever since I was diagnosed in July of 2019, I've just been head down, nose down. I'm going to tackle this head on and get it done. Not a lot of fanfare surrounding that, just doing the job of fighting the breast cancer. And as I mentioned, I was diagnosed in July of 2019. So I've been fighting breast cancer for a little over 2 years. When it first started out, I was diagnosed as stage three, and I had hormone positive, so ER positive, PR positive, HER2 negative breast cancer. And I also had some lymph node involvement. At that time, the approach was to treat with chemotherapy, followed by bilateral mastectomy and radiation. After those things happened, that completed, the radiation completed in April of 2020. So a little bit of that was going on during the pandemic, which was kind of an odd time. And I ended up changing oncologists in between there. My oncologist left for another practice. And in November of 2020, we found that the cancer had metastasized to another organ. So if any of you were on the call when Dr. Dow was talking earlier, a metastasis is when the cancer, the breast cancer, shows up in another organ of your body. So in my case, it showed up in my liver and in my bones. Um, the liver, we were able to biopsy and confirm that the cancer had changed. The primary cancer was hormone positive, HER2 negative. The metastasis is now triple negative. So I'm metastatic triple negative. I've been treating for metastatic breast cancer since November of 2020. So we're coming up on a year here soon. I'm on my first line of treatment in the metastatic setting, and I'm responding. So once you're metastatic, your oncologist will put you on a treatment plan and you'll scan every 3 months, checking for status. Is the cancer progressing? Is it stable? Is it shrinking? And as of my last scans, I'm fortunate enough to say that I have no evidence of active disease. That's a really positive thing, especially for a triple negative breast cancer patient. And I continue to work full time. Um, I continue just to live my life. My oncologist gives me great advice. She says, we're going to work cancer into your life. Your life's not going to be about cancer. And that's the way that I try to live it. Um, I've I just decided when you invited me to come on your show, I thought, okay, I'm going to announce this. There's been a few photos on my Facebook page. I'm sure folks can tell that I'm going through something, but I hadn't really announced it on social media. Certainly, my friends and family know. Those closest to me know what I'm going through, but I feel a real calling to be an advocate for others. So I want to use this as a platform to get moving on some advocacy work in this space.
So amazing, and we're honored that you chose this space with us here at Breast Cancer Can Stick It today to share your story and really be an inspiration and a hero to so many watching. I know that we have a lot of breast cancer survivors watching right now and going through stage 4 too, and it's a very difficult process. And to see you sitting there smiling and really enjoying life through all this is truly an inspiration. You mentioned that you were first diagnosed in 2019. How did you find out that you had breast cancer? Like, what was your first symptom?
So it was the craziest thing. Again, anyone who was listening when Dr. Dow was on the line, she was talking about how, you can do the self breast examinations monthly, but really your biggest indicator is going to be you knowing your own body and you sensing that something is different. And I found mine in the shower, bathing, just slip underneath that breast tissue, just washing. And I felt something different. And I thought, that doesn't feel normal. So I spent about a week trying to hunt for it every single time. And I almost had to dig to find it. Um, but I knew it was different. Something was different. And so I got in and had a diagnostic mammogram, and that's how they found it. Um, Admittedly, I had had some mammograms, but I had gone a couple of years without a mammogram. So this is your PSA, everyone. Please get those annual mammograms. They're so vitally important. I had gone a couple of years without a mammogram. I was busy with work, busy in my career. It just fell on the low priority list. And lo and behold, with no family history, here I am with breast cancer.
Wow. And if you don't mind my asking, how old were you in 2019 when you were diagnosed?
51.
So that's actually considered young, honestly.
It's
You
so
know,
funny because everyone at the oncology center, my oncologist, the treatment at the treatment center, everyone says, "But you're so young, you're so young." And I think, gosh, I don't feel young, but but I guess in the grand scheme of breast cancer, I'm on the younger side.
I know I was 41 when I was diagnosed, and I thought the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, isn't like under 40 young? But 40 doesn't, over 40 doesn't seem young.
Yeah.
So when they found that, whenever you found it, and then they confirmed that it was breast cancer, what stage were you at that point in time?
Stage 3, I did have some lymph node involvement. So that moved me to stage 3. And at the time, we had done all of the scans, CT scans, bone scans, PET scan, and there was no metastasis at that time. So within the 8 months after treatment, that's when the metastasis showed up.
That's so scary and so important for people to hear this, because the thing is you have to be diligent, and
Yes.
thankfully you were diligent, and your oncologist, and I'm sure your entire medical team really was keeping an eye on you, and watching for any recurrence or metastasis. So I'm so glad that they caught that. And so then it was November of last year, you said that it came back, and my God, Gina, I can't imagine being re-diagnosed in the middle of a pandemic. That had to be so challenging. Tell us about how that was. Like, how did you find this second bout with breast cancer? Tell us about it a little bit.
That's so interesting that you point that out. Absolutely different. And I think in some ways there was a blessing to that. Um, so when I was diagnosed the second time with the metastasis, you couldn't bring a loved one with you to the oncology office, to the infusion suite, any of that. So I heard this news alone, on my own to process. And I have a wonderful support system. And throughout my primary diagnosis and treatment, my husband came with me to every appointment, every infusion, all of it. So I had a second set of ears to hear the information, because sometimes as the patient, it's overwhelming.
Oh, it
You're
absolutely is. Yeah, I always tell everybody, Gina, that like I brought a little MP3 recorder, because this is before you could record your phone. Really, I brought a little MP3 recorder to record everything. 'Cause it's a lot to process. You're going through this emotional period of time, and you're getting all this brand new information. That's just, yeah. Go on. Sorry to interrupt you, but
oh
I just want
no,
to jump in and
absolutely.
say, yeah, totally with you
You're
there.
so right about that. And there were times after, appointments, my husband and I would have conversations, and we would say, now did you hear this or did you hear that? And we would try to piece it all together. So in the metastatic setting, because I was alone for all of these appointments, it fell to me to really understand everything that was going on, come equipped with questions to appointments, and because my diagnosis changed somewhat, I knew everything that I thought I needed to know about hormone positive breast cancer. Now I have triple negative breast cancer, so that's a whole new ball game, whole new set of treatment options and things to understand. And I found that it made me a better patient and it made me a better advocate being alone for these appointments. And I was able to find a real inner strength that I didn't know I had. And that's been a blessing that cancer has given me is just finding out truly how much you can endure and how strong you can be.
God, girl, that's so powerful again. And the little chat room here is just blowing up with people commenting. Laura says, "You're so courageous. I'm proud of you. You will beat this. We love you." Lisa says, "We love you, Gina, and continue to pray for you. You are beautiful. You are so courageous. Keep up the fight." We've got Caitlin saying, "This is what makes you so inspiring." We also had a note here from Jennifer. She says, "Thank you for sharing your story, Gina. I know how emotional this is, and I truly believe that when we share our stories, it helps people. Wishing you the very best." And a lot of these ladies are from our Survivors Rock group on Facebook. So anybody who's out there right now who is a breast cancer survivor, please check out Survivors Rock, a breast cancer can stick a community where we can all powwow and share our experiences together and lift each other up, which is what you're doing right now, Gina. You really
I
are,
hope
because
so.
like I said, there's a lot of women out here who have stage 4. It's very scary, and to hear the strength that you've gotten from going through this again through a pandemic, like you were saying, I just can't imagine going through treatment just completely alone and all those doctor's appointments. But like you said, it made you tap into that inner strength, and that's so amazing. And I'm so glad for that. So
Yeah, it's just been a whirlwind, but I'm thankful for it in many ways. I feel like this strength has kind of buoyed me in other areas of my life that aren't cancer related. So some blessings from that too.
yeah, amen to that. So, I know that when you first spoke, we kind of blew through a lot of your treatment and things like that, but I want to make sure that we capture that again. So, when you were diagnosed in November of 2020, what was the first thing they did at that point, treatment wise?
So before treatment, they took a biopsy of my liver. So bone biopsies are difficult to do. They're difficult to get a really accurate reading from, and they wanted to be able to do genetic testing. So since I had a liver tumor that they were able to biopsy, we went for that. I was sent off to have genetic testing done on the tumor sample. And when that testing came back, that enabled my oncologist to identify the appropriate treatment option for me. So my tumor, while it's triple negative, it does express a characteristic. It's a genetic mutation called PDL1. So I am PDL1 positive. Um, that made me a candidate for immunotherapy. So my current treatment that I'm on is a combination of chemotherapy and immunotherapy. I take Abraxane, and I'm giving you brand names here. I'm on Abraxane, and that's the chemotherapy, and I'm on Tecentriq, which is an immunotherapy. And I'm responding very well to this treatment option. Um, like I said, I've been on it for almost a year, so I feel really fortunate to be having such a positive response to this. But I'm very aware that that could change at any time. And when you're metastatic, especially triple negative, um, options may only last you for a period of time, and that's why the scans occur every quarter. So that your oncologist can stay on top of how you're responding to treatment and then change course if we should need to. Um, so that's where I am right now.
And I've heard it said many times from other women going through similar treatment, where essentially what can happen is after a period of time, your cancer can build up an immunity to whatever that treatment is, and that's why they switch. Is that what the oncologist just told you as well? Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. It can build up an immunity. It can also mutate a little bit, right? It becomes aware of what you're treating it with, and it figures a way around it. So at that point, then you have to find the next best treatment option. And so my oncologist has identified a few, plan B options, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. But at some point in time, and it may be after this first treatment option, I will likely consider some clinical trials.
So the treatment that you're having right now, is that considered a trial, or is this some
It
approved
is,
treatment?
it is not, it's not a trial. This particular drug was approved for treatment in the metastatic setting for triple negative breast cancer in March of 2019. Without getting too technical, just recently, within the last couple of weeks, the manufacturer of the immunotherapy, Tecentriq, withdrew the indication for metastatic triple negative breast cancer. So this drug has been traditionally used for non-small cell lung cancer that expresses PD-L1. And then they found through some initial clinical trials that there was some efficacy, some improvement in progression-free survival for metastatic triple negative breast cancer. So they got accelerated approval to use this drug from the FDA. However, the subsequent trials to get the full approval from the FDA did not show that same amount of efficacy. So, or the progression-free survival, it didn't meet its endpoint. So the manufacturer had to withdraw the indication for the drug. So I've spent the last couple of weeks scrambling, trying to find out what does that mean for me as a patient. And what I've found is if current patients who are on this drug can continue to take it, and hopefully my insurance company will continue to cover it. That might be the next battle I have to fight, but we'll figure that out. My oncologist certainly has a case to make. I'm on the drug and I am responding. So that's kind of the history of that drug. Probably more than you wanted to know there.
No, no, this is really great information. Like I said, the chat room here is blowing up. I feel like I'm really old school when I say chat room. It's the comments, but I want to be sure also, Gina, as I see things come through, I want to try to ask questions from people who are watching right now. We have a
Sure.
question from Amy. She said, "How did the second diagnosis happen? Did you have symptoms?" I ask because I had the same diagnosis and treatment. I still see my doctors, but they don't do any scans or anything. That's from Amy. So she wanted to know.
Oh, Amy,
Yeah.
that is a really great question. So when I went after my mastectomy, there the pathology results from my mastectomy showed that I did not have a complete response to the neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So the adriamycin, Cytoxan, and Taxol, those were the three chemo drugs that I took prior to the mastectomy. While they were successful in somewhat shrinking the cancer, they were not successful in eradicating all of it. I did not have a complete response. And I had 6 lymph nodes that still had cancer in them after surgery. Um, they, my surgeon felt confident, and we knew that she got clean margins from the mastectomy. They took all of my lymph nodes, so those were removed. I went through radiation, and I was left wondering, well, what does this mean now? Do you send me on my way and I'm cancer free? It was a little bit scary to me that I had gone through so much chemotherapy and still had that much cancer left in me at time of surgery. So I pressed my oncologist at the time for a scan. This was in May of 2020. She didn't think my insurance company would cover it, and I pressed for it. And that's when they found suspicion of metastasis in my bones. I really didn't get into this in my original conversation, but I'll share it with you now. They found suspicion of metastasis in the bones, but they couldn't confirm it.
Well, this
So
is not what you want to hear, man. I'm just saying.
no,
Not
it's
at
not at
all.
all what you wanted to
Yeah.
hear, but I'm so glad I pressed for that
Right.
CT.
Right.
And so when I got with my new oncologist, who is fantastic, by the way, her first question to me is, why this CT scan? Because that's not standard of care. It's not typically what they do. And I had told her that I had pressed for that. And she wanted to follow up on that. She was not convinced. She said sometimes CT scans, especially, bony metastasis, sometimes it's other things, sometimes it's not a metastasis. I want to take another look. So when she took the second look, she was hoping and thinking perhaps there was no metastasis there and we were going to prove that. Unfortunately, that's when we found the liver. So was I having any symptoms? The answer to that is no. I've never felt a pain in my back. I have several lesions in my spinal area. I have no pain in my back, and I have no liver pain. So without those scans, I say this all the time, I probably would be talking to you today, feeling great, thinking that living my best life, thinking I'm cancer free
Yeah,
until a
that's
symptom showed up sometime.
so what was it that made you want to press for those scans? And I want to reiterate that Gina was stage 3. So for
Mhm.
someone like me, when I think about like me versus you, for an example, like if I was X amount of time out and my oncologist was like, you don't need scans or whatever, and I was stage 1 and you were stage 3, I'd probably be a little less concerned being stage 1. I had a double mastectomy, I had all the rounds of chemo. They declared me cancer free. The standard care for that was actually just chest x-rays every year for me, and then I would come in like every 3 months, then every 6 months, then once a year, that kind of thing. And so there was never, any reason for me to think I needed anything more than that. So as a stage 1 person, it might not make as much sense. But at the stage 3 person, I think you might be a lot more aware and really want to press for things like that. So to Amy's point, she says she had the same treatment and diagnosis. If she was stage 3 also, again, Dr. Dow said, if you have like this feeling or whatever and you feel like you should get it followed up, then you should always go with that. That oftentimes that intuition is there for reasons. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes just playing games with you. Well, I've had that before too. But if you have that kind of nagging, something is telling you you need to get something checked out. It's always better to be safe than sorry. So yeah,
I think you're spot on, April. If I was stage 1 or even stage 2, and if I had had a better response to that chemotherapy initially, I probably would not have pushed for that. The disappointment, um, the conversation that I had with my breast surgeon after surgery, and the disappointment that she expressed with the pathology results that I still had cancer in 6 lymph nodes, it just really resonated with me. And I just felt like I can't walk away from this feeling completely confident that I'm cancer free. I had so much initial cancer. And I still had residual cancer after that chemotherapy. And I took a pretty aggressive chemotherapy. The adriamycin is also called the red devil, and it's no joke. It's
yeah.
a
Yeah, I think a lot of us on here are down with that. I think there's other triple negative breast cancer survivors. I'm a triple negative breast cancer survivor as well, and so that's like the main thing that they do is adriamycin, Cytoxan, and Taxol. And that adriamycin, yeah, it is no joke at all. That red devil stuff, no fun.
yeah, and it didn't kick it.
Yeah,
So that really concerned me.
yeah.
Um, so I just pressed for that because I felt uneasy.
Yep, totally. We have a lot of people commenting again. I want to make sure and read those to you. So Kim is saying, Gina, you are your best advocate. All people patients must advocate for their lives. And I always say this to Gina. I'm like, no one cares more about your health than you do. So that's why it's so important to again advocate for yourself. Ray, this must be your father, maybe. He says, Gina, you are truly an amazing daughter. We are so proud of you. Hi, Dad Ray. That's so awesome. Very cool. And then Jennifer says, I'm sorry if I missed this. Did you say that you had your CT and or bone scan before you started treatment?
I did. Because I had lymph node involvement and they knew that from ultrasounds and biopsy. I did have a CT and a bone scan in July of 2019. And there was no evidence of disease in any distant organs at that time.
Gotcha. Did they do a PET scan at that time as well?
I'm trying to remember, and I want to say no to that.
Yeah.
I don't think I had a pet at that time.
Yeah. I've never had a PET scan. It always freaks me out when I talk about it, but I just have to keep reminding myself, calm down. you were stage 1, caught it super early, had a double mastectomy, had all the chemo,
Yeah,
did all
so
the hormones. So
early detection, April, is the key. And honestly, if that's the biggest thing that I can say to everyone, very early on when I was diagnosed, I had a lot of guilt associated with the fact that I had skipped a couple of mammograms. And it took me a long time to get past that. So I would just share with everyone, yes, it's a nuisance. Yes, it's annoyance. And it's probably the least favorite thing to do other than seeing the gynecologist. But do it. Get
oh
it done,
yeah.
ladies. Get it
Well,
on your calendar.
and you need to do the gynecologist too, because there's
Yes.
cervical cancer and all that stuff. It's always good just to stay on top of all that. Dermatologist, getting your skin checked. I mean, that's another thing is skin cancer is one of the most common forms of cancer, and that's something you don't think about. You don't sit there and look about every single part of your body all the time, but that's what the dermatologists are there for. It's always good to get those checked out. So stay on top of those annual appointments, people. Do
Yes,
that.
please do. Please
Yes,
do.
yes. And Valerie says, "You are so amazing. I love you, my sweet friend."
Oh,
You
thank you.
got you got love in the house,
Mhm.
girlfriend. Lisa says you are an inspiration. Barbara says, "Gina, I admire your strength." I had a question for you. Oh, Deborah says, "I'm so proud of you, Gina." Oh
Oh,
gosh, they're just
thank
coming in
you.
left and right. Josie says, "Very inspiring." Josie is from our board, and she is an RN, RN for an oncologist. She says, "Very inspiring, Gina. Thank you for sharing your story, as
Hi,
you are
Josie.
helping so many women. God bless you and keep strong." Very cool.
Thank you.
But I did think of a question for you earlier when we were talking. Did you have any risk factors? Like, did you have any close family members that had any kind of cancer at all?
No. So, no cancer. Well, so I had an aunt that passed on my dad's side that passed away a few years ago. They believe she had stomach cancer, but other than that, no cancer on either side of the family, breast or otherwise. And I do not have any of the BRCA mutations. So I tested negative for BRCA1 and BRCA2.
Have you done the full panel of genetic testing?
Oh yes, I want to say there's like 62 genetic. Uh,
We need to ask Josie right now. Josie, tell us in the chat here how many different tests there are, because I know the last time I did it, Gina, it was like maybe 28, 30 something amount, and like when I first did it there was like 10 maybe,
yeah, it's
because I was diagnosed 10
insane.
years ago. Yeah, they're constantly finding it. Just for those watching, so the BRCA mutation that Gina references is the most common. It's like the highest risk for breast cancer. But there's all these other lower level, or there's some that are closer in the risk factor, and then they get lower, lower, lower. But there's all these different genes that they've been able to trace back to breast cancer at varying, levels of risk. So like they maybe this one is like 90% risk, and this one over here is 70, and this one's 60, and then you have these down here that are 10. But they have all these varying risk factors involved. And then they also have other types of cancer. So it's like, oh, you have this one genetic mutation. The risk for this is this kind of cancer, this kind of cancer, this kind of cancer, and this is the percentage of each one of those. I mean, it's crazy when you look at those panels, man. Oh,
It's so crazy.
she just
And it
responded, Gina. You hit the nail on the head. She said a full panel testing can run up to at least 60. Crazy. I need to go back. She told me, she's like, you need to come back and get genetic testing every now and then, because we've never found any mutation with me, but I have a lot of cancer on my dad's side. My dad has had skin cancer, prostate cancer. My uncle had prostate cancer. He had family members with breast cancer on his side. So I know there's a gene out there. So maybe they have the one and we can like find it for once. So I need to go and have that done. Wow. Okay, so where are you now, Gina? Like, what is happening with your treatment right now? You're still in that. You said you were still taking the immunotherapy. I think you said a Braxine. Did I get that right?
Abraxane, Abraxane is the
Uh huh.
chemotherapy, and Tecentriq is the immunotherapy.
Right.
I take that. I go every Friday, 3 Fridays in a row, and then I get a week off. So 3 weeks on, 1 week off. I get my infusions, and I just had scans about 2 weeks ago, and I'm stable. So I have no evidence of active disease. So we're continuing to move forward, and I'll get scans probably. Would that be like December, I would think.
Very cool. I'm so glad that you're staying on top of that. And just like we said yesterday, Gina, I was like, when you told me you were stage 4, I was like, yeah, but you're sitting there, you're smiling, you look radiant, like you're full of this glowing spirit of energy and positivity, and you're just a real inspiration.
Oh, well, thank you. I have my wig on. So I don't have I have a little bit of hair growing back, which is kind of odd, but my oncologist said that happens sometimes. But I work full time. It's really important to me to not let cancer define me. It is a big part of my life, no doubt about it. And I spend a considerable amount of time thinking about it, researching it, and understanding it. But I still want to be me. And so it was, I don't know, it's just important to me to make things pretty seamless. I have one daughter and three beautiful grandchildren, and I am just trying to thrive with this diagnosis as best I can. And not every day am I like this. Am I up? I have my occasional days where I'm down a little bit about it. And what I've decided, I allow myself about 24 hours when those feelings crop up. I give myself about 24 hours to dwell on them, and then I'm back to kicking cancer butt and taking names.
And inspiring people too. I've got a couple of more comments that I want to read to you real quick. So Stephanie says, "You are such an inspiration and becoming such a strong warrior for all breast cancer fighters and all women to help them know early detection is so important. I love you, my beautiful sister."
Thank you.
Caitlin says she is the best. Vicky says, "Gina, I am so proud of you and your strength. Keep up the fight. Love you, girl." Oh, Tony is here. Tony's the husband, it looks like. He says,
Yes.
yes, he says, "I've been married to this woman for over 32 years. So cool. Welcome, Tony, to the broadcast. Patty says, "I
He's
feel like
awesome.
I'm right there with you, my amazing Gina. I love you." And that was from
Oh,
Patty. So
thank you
again,
all.
I want to let everybody know that you'll be able to watch this replay right here on the Breast Cancer Can Stick It Facebook channel. And then we're also going to be putting this interview up by itself on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/breastcancercanstick. That's youtube.com/breastcancercanstick. So Gina, people will be able to watch this replay because you have a lot of great information packed into here, not just about your own personal journey through breast cancer, but a lot of information that's very helpful for helping people kind of navigate their own journey with breast cancer, or possibly just making sure they're staying on top of their own health. So super inspiring, girl. It's like that 30 minutes goes by so fast, man. It's just
It
like
really
this party.
did.
I know. I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
Marilyn says you're amazing. So if you guys join late, be sure to watch the replay. And Gina, I can't thank you enough for joining tonight, especially since you're an Ohioan, and I know it's later there, so it's like after 10. So I'm very grateful that you were able to join us this evening. And keep in touch
Yes.
with us and let us know how you're doing. And I know I will see you over on Survivors Rock, a breast cancer can stick it community in our little Facebook group. So be sure and do keep us posted about you, okay?
Absolutely. And anybody in the group can reach out to me at any time. You can find me in the community.
Thank you so much, Gina. I look forward to chatting with you more, and you have a great
Right.
evening. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Take care. All right, everybody, give it up for Gina. Gina in the house, man. She slayed dragons, and she continues to slay dragons.